And hello, my friends. Happy Wednesday to you. And I'm with you today with some Pocket Pennant Run odds and ends that I want to go over with you that I'm sort of learning about the game as we go through. The one thing that I really want to encourage everyone to do that has purchased Pocket Pennant Run, and if you haven't purchased it and you'd like to, check out the website in the description for this video. And that will be a link that you can take to check out all of the products for Pocket Pennant Run. Been playing a lot of it lately, and I want to talk to you today about some of that. First thing, though, is if you've purchased it and you have not really checked out the software download in detail, it does a whole lot more than sim games that you don't want to play or you want to do the rest of a league or something. Does a lot of other things, including help you manage your roster cards. And I'm going to show you some things that I do. Is three ways that you can go with roster cards that I've learned about and sort of figured out in my time with Pocket Pennant Run. You can use the software to rearrange your roster cards by adding and subtracting players to it. Up to 15 hitters on the front and 15 pitchers on the back, or if you want blank lines, if you leave blank lines by saving fewer than 15 batters or fewer than 15 pitchers, you'll have blank lines on your roster card. You can write in anybody you want to. And then you don't have to reprint. But if you want to reprint, you can go do that as well and print out several different versions of the team or teams that you're using. So there's a lot of options with the software. It's worth your time to spend some time with it and look through what all it can do for you and your replay. You can certainly do a completely as-played replay with Pocket Pennant Run. You get all the players, all the teams. You're good to go. I'm going to show you some data now, and I'm going to show you some of the roster cards that I've done as well. But I want to show you some data with a league that I've put together with multiple teams from different eras, different seasons, just a hodgepodge of stuff. It's not a lot of data. It's not a full season of data. But it's a snapshot. It's a glimpse of the game in terms of some aggregates that are, I think, worth a look and I think speak well for the performance of the game, even in this very short sample size that I'm going to share with you. I'm going to talk about the teams in the league. I'm almost through game one for all the teams in the league. I'm not using injuries yet, and all of the data that we're going to see is from the ace pitchers. Number one starters for all these teams are the ones that are generating the numbers. The sample size is small. I've got 14 games in on this league, and I think there's another 6 or 8 left to go games for the first batch of games that I'm going to do. And I think the numbers will be interesting. I've also run some comps from some other seasons so you can get a sense of how things are starting to shape up. There is a number one statistic that I think is the most important one for any sim, and that's runs scored. If you're off on home runs, could be an anomaly. If you're close on runs scored, or where you ought to be on runs scored, I think that's the number one statistic to look at, and I'm very happy with how that's looking so far. So let's take a look for a few minutes at the Pocket Pennant Run data that I have, and I'm going to take a pic of my sheet that I'm going to share with you, and then I'm going to put it in a post on the Pocket Pennant Run Facebook page. So if you want to look at it yourself in some more detail, you can do that for yourself at your leisure. All right, let's look at the numbers. Before we get into a look at the numbers, I want to share this with you. This is what I was talking about with adjusting your roster card. If you save less than 15 batters on your card, on your roster card, you will have blank lines. And here's an example. This is the and there's a good chance I need to start building an arc. But regardless, this is the 2012 Baltimore Orioles that we have right here. And I left a line blank on my roster card, and I wrote in a name, Jim Thome. You can see that I wrote in his position, which in 2012 for the Orioles was DH. I wrote in his way that he hit, which was left. I wrote in his name, and I wrote in all of his ratings that I got off of the software download for Pocket Pennant Run. So you can manipulate by writing in the players that you want to write in on your roster card if you choose to do it that way. This is what the back side looks like. Now here's another way you can go, and that is to write, this is what I do for making all-star teams, or in this case, I was putting together from the software download a team of the Japanese Premier 12 team from 2019. So I've got all the players here. These are pitchers that I have. Their starting pitchers and relief pitcher designation, which way they throw, their name, and all of their ratings. So if you didn't want to use these cards for your rosters, you could certainly use a 3x5 index card like this one and write in all of the ratings of all the players that you wanted to have available to you. And so if you don't have a printer that's working well, or you don't have a printer at all, you can still use the software information to download, take a look at the rosters, and just write out on a card the players that you need. This side has the pitchers. I use the back side for the hitter, the position players. Do the same thing here, position, which way they bat, their name, and then all four of their ratings. So you've got really a few different options. You can print and reprint as many roster cards as you need to do using the software, leaving, again, if you want, fewer than 15 players, position players, or you can do it for pitchers. You can leave less than 15 pitchers, and that'll give you blanks on the roster card you can use to fill in as well. Or you can take everything and reprint it. This is just an ordinary 3x5 index card, and you can use that to put down all of your ratings. Nothing earth-shattering here, but just some things that I thought might be helpful tips to make your Pocket Pennant Run experience a little bit easier. All right. Now, with all that said, let's take a look at the data that we have for the games that I have played in the league that I have set up. What you see in front of you is 14 games of data. And again, I'm putting a pic of this on the Pocket Pennant Run Facebook page, and you can take a look at this at your leisure. I have each game that I played listed 1 to 14 in the start of this league. For the visitor and the home team, they're batting. How many hits in how many at-bats for each game. So, for example, in this one, the visiting team was 1 for 27 in their game. This was their hitting. The home team was 6 for 24. Then I have a totals column, and the totals is really what I'm concerned about here, but I want to show you how I got the totals. Visitor plus home gets the totals. So, we have 7 for 51 in this first game. Game 2, 15 for 51. Game 3, 12 for 53, and a 53 sounds like an odd number. That's because there was a walk-off. And so on, down the line. And I put the totals down here. I also totaled the runs per game from both teams added together, the walks per game, both teams added together. Notice that I did not count the intentional walks, only the straight walks off the card. the strikeouts, both teams added together, home runs, both teams added together, and the errors. And this is something I'm going to track over time. So I'm giving you the first batch here. I'm not suggesting to you at all that 14 games of data is at all suggestive of anything. I did do the totals, so these are the totals. For my 14 games, there was 185 hits out of 757 at bats. 90 runs were scored, 49 walks, 174 total strikeouts, 31 total homers, and 8 errors. Now, it's important to note, all of these were against the number one starting pitchers. So the numbers are going to shake out a little bit as we go through the starting rotations for sure. As we get bench players in, we'll get more D-fielders. There'll be more errors made as we get, and that will probably affect strikeouts and walks as well. So, what are the averages? Well, they are 6.42 runs per game, 3.5 walks per game, 12.4 strikeouts per game, 2.21 home runs per game, and 0.57 errors per game at this point. So these are the totals for the two teams, the averages for the two teams. All right, then what I did is I thought it might be interesting to go back and to compare, and we'll use these as we go along. So what I did was I took the averages from 2021, 1991, 1981, 1971, 1961, and 1941. Now, I picked 2021 to give you an idea, just to get started, where the Major League Baseball is right now. My teams range from 1938 to 1993 in this league that I set up. So these 5-decade numbers here, 91 to 41, are really the numbers that are the ones worth looking at. And you can see I made a mistake here because I forgot to double the totals for two teams per game. So in 2021, 9.06 runs were scored per game on average with the two teams combined, winner and the loser. 6.5 walks per game, 17.34 strikeouts per game, 2.44 home runs per game, and 1.08 errors per game. Those were the two-team totals, averages, for the 2021 season. Then you can go across and you can see all the others. I'm going to read this one to you from 1991 because I crossed out some stuff. So this is 8.60 runs per game in 1991, 6.64 walks per game, 11.59 strikeouts per game. Interesting, I thought that in the 30 years, strikeouts per game went up 6 per game on average. 1.6 home runs per game in 1991 and 1.44 errors per game. Again, all of these are for the two teams combined per game. And then the others you can check out as well. So as the picture becomes a little bit more clear, what we'll have is the ability to compare the data here with the real-life data and see which era my league is starting to fall into. As a Pocket Pennant Run community, it may be helpful for us to look at these. The number one stat that I'm looking at is aggregate runs over a batch of games. I want that to be somewhere close to what it ought to be. And we're starting low here, no question. But again, the aces are pitching, and we haven't gone through the second, third, fourth, and fifth starter. So all of that will be coming in the weeks to come as I share more data. Feel free to share your data as well. It'll be interesting to see how we compare. Thanks again for being with me. Please don't forget to click like and subscribe. And have a wonderful day, everybody. So long, everybody.